Have you ever wondered what can you do if your car wants to start? Today I'm going to tell you what will you do if someone calls you and tell you that his car wants to start. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. It's normal that a car wants to start. Don't panic. You don't have to panic that your car wants to start. Please stay and watch this video fully for better understanding, and remember to make a subscribe if you like and turn on bell notification. Here there is some systems you have to check out if your car wants to start. The first system is called charging system, the second one starting system, the third one fuel supply system, fourth one ignition system, and the last one is what we call air intake system. You have to check all of these systems in order to have a problem solved. Nothing else or nothing else system you have to check instead of check these all of system you are seeing right now. When we say charging system is what we call battery. You know that in charging system we need a battery during starting our vehicle, and so that is why we need to check our charging system for proper operation. And the starting system, you know what we call starter motor. When starter motor gets a current, it extend out its starter pinion for turning an engine flywheel. And you have to check what we call fuel supply system. Know that a fuel supply system, its purpose is to supply fuel from an fuel tank to the engine for proper mixture formation. You have also to check ignition system, because you know that ignition system is what carries a spark from an ignition coil up to the spark plugs. And you have to check this system called an air intake system. Here you check what we call an air filter, because you know that when this air filter is clogged, an air can't be admitted in an engine and the engine will not start. That is why you have to check it also. So let's check system per system one by one. Battery service. As you know, an engine needs air and fuel to operate or to proper functioning. As you know, the purpose of the battery is to produce an electricity needed to start up our vehicle. During engine clanking, a battery power is needed to start up a vehicle because it produces a current needed to operate as a starter motor of the vehicle. So you have to check your battery. So let's jump on the location of the battery in the motor vehicle first. A battery is located in underhood just above the engine. This is where a battery is located, as you see. So what you have to check on the battery is that the first check you have to carry out on your battery, check if a battery terminals are well tightened, especially positive terminal, because it is where a starter motor gets current during starting. Here you can also use a multimeter. Use a multimeter to know a battery voltage. A multimeter is used, or it helps us to know our battery voltage. If voltage is up to 12 volt or more, there is no problem with the battery current. So what you have to keep in mind is that if the battery has enough current to start up in a vehicle, you have to check another component. This means that if your battery has 12 volt with a help of multimeter, so you have to detect a problem from another components. Another thing you have to check on your battery is to check if in on position, battery indicator light up in dashboard, and if fuel pump is operating. If this is not the case, you have to charge your battery. So let's see what can you check on starting system. As you see, this is a starter motor. The first check you have to carry out is to make sure that engine is in clanking position during testing a starting system. What you need to know is that if engine is clanking, there is no problem with the starting system. But if it does not, you have to check if cable from battery positive terminal is in good operation with a help of multimeter by setting it into continuity. So let me help you to know a starter motor. As you know, during an engine starting up, a battery supply a positive current to the starter motor, to this starter motor. If solenoid of this starter motor gets current from battery positive terminal, it extends starter pinion out of its bore to turn an engine flywheel. So if your engine is clanking, there is no problem with the starting system. But if this is not the case, you have to check your entry starting system. Let me If your engine is clanking, will clank like this, in this way. If the problem found, have it replaced. If no problem found, you have to check into the starter motor. The second thing you have to check on your starting system is to make sure that the starter motor pinion gears are not wound, because if it wound, it will not be able to turn an engine flywheel. So that is why you have to make sure that the gears on your starter pinion are in good operation in order to allow to turn an engine flywheel. So those are all the things you have to check on your starting system. So let's jump on another system you have to check. The first thing you have to check on fuel supply system is to check the fuel level, because an fuel is what allows an engine to start. If your fuel tank is full, your fuel will be able to be delivered to the engine, but if your fuel is empty in a fuel tank, your engine will not start. So that is why you have to check an fuel level in the fuel tank first on the dashboard. If this needle is pointing an F, means that a fuel is enough. But if this needle is pointing on letter E, means that there is no fuel in the fuel tank. So you have to check an fuel level before performing any checks on the fuel supply system. So let's see what you can check on the fuel supply system if fuel is not being delivered to the engine while there is an fuel in the fuel tank. So here I'm going to tell you the checks you have to carry out if the fuel is not being delivered to the engine while in the fuel tank there is enough fuel. First, check the fuel pump. If it is electric type, because it have to operate whenever the ignition key is in on position. If your fuel pump is not operating while an ignition key is in on position, you have to replace your fuel pump with a new one. So make sure that a fuel pump is delivering a fuel. If not, have it replaced. So let's see another component. This is the component of fuel supply system and its location in the motor vehicle. So you have to make sure that all of these components of the fuel supply system are in good proper operation. For example, this fuel lines, what you have to check on this, check for clogging of the fuel lines, because if the fuel lines have been clogged, the fuel will not be delivered and the electrical fuel pump will suck no fuel. So you have to check that your fuel lines are in good operation and have no clogging inside on it. So you have to make sure that the fuel is being delivered to your injection system. As you see, the fuel comes from a fuel tank through a fuel lines, the fuel pump up to the fuel injection system or injection devices such as injectors. So you have to make sure that the fuel is being delivered to the engine. If this is not the case, check your system. Check also if the fuel from an electric fuel pump is being delivered to the fuel injectors, and make sure that your fuel injectors is delivering the fuel or is supplying the fuel in an engine intake manifold or an inside of the engine cylinder. Let's jump on an electronic ignition system, because it is mostly being used in newer vehicles. As you see, these are all of the components of ignition system. Whenever the ignition key is turned in on position, and current from an magnetic coil or an ignition coil have to be delivered to the spark plugs via a distributor. So make sure that spark plugs or spark plug connectors are having a sparks or something which is like a spark when an ignition key or when ignition key is in on position. So the first check to carry out: remove spark plug connectors to make sure that there is current being reaching on the spark plugs. You have to make sure that all spark plugs are in good condition, especially a spark plug of cylinder 1, because this gets a power stroke first before other engine cylinders. So you have to make sure that all cables or all spark plug connectors are well connected and check if current is being reached to spark plug. Sometimes engine won't to start if one of your spark plug, especially a spark plug from an engine cylinder one, if it is defective. So you have to make sure that all your spark plugs are in good condition in order to allow your engine to start. So let's jump on an air intake system. An air intake system, you also have to check it. The purpose of an air intake system is the system that allows the clean air or fresh air to be admitted into the engine, where it is being mixed with an fuel from an fuel tank and to form an correct mixture ratio and to produce power when they are burned during a combustion stroke. Any restriction from an intake manifold or from an air filter will forbid an engine from starting. So you have to check your air intake system for restrictions or excessive, that is an air filters that could prevent an air from being admitted into the engine. The first thing you have to check on air intake system is what we call an air filter. This is an air filter, so you have to make sure that there is no excessive clogs or contaminant in your air filter. Here you check that there is no excessive clogs which can reduce amount of entering air or to block air from entering into the engine. So you have to check your air filter for proper starting engine functioning. If there is excessive dirty in your air filter, you have to replace it, because if there is excessive clogging in your air filter, this will prevent an engine from starting. So those are all things you have to check out if your car wants to start. That is okay. Thank you for watching this video until on its end. Make sure to make a subscribe, like, share and comment if you like. Okay, thank you.